Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Upland Social, brought to you by Gundog Central and Ballad of the Bird Dog.
Hey, Rooster. Good girl. Good girl. Nice shot! Fetch it up, Willow! Call Willow! Right there, right there! Woohoo!
Today's guest is Will Newell, a lifelong North Carolinian whose passion for bird hunting started at just 13 years old and turned into a serious pursuit by the time he was 20. A 2009 Clemson graduate, he's built his life around chasing migratory birds, from ducks and geese to doves and other winged game. When he's not in the field, he serves as director of development at Project Upland, bringing the same dedication to his professional life that he does to the outdoors. Today, we talk all about dove hunting, from strategy to decoys, the social aspect, dog work, and everything in between. Hey, Will, thanks for joining me today on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I don't know if you noticed a little grin on my face when you mentioned decoys. I can't wait to talk about that. I have
Yeah.
some. It may even devolve into a rant. I don't know.
Well, we're here for it, man. We're definitely going to talk all things dove today. And here in just a few days, 2 days from now, it'll be exactly 1 month until the opener. And kind of crazy that bird season's already kind of like rolling around. I feel like I was just still kind of finishing things up from last season. So it's basically here, man. And so it's got birds on the brain, and a lot of people, in the bird dog world, they're taking their dogs out for a prairie grass trip, perhaps to Montana or North Dakota or something like that. But for many
Yeah.
of us, the way that starts all across the country, save a few states, is dove hunting. So we'll definitely dive into that a lot today. But man, like before we do that, I kind of want to double click just on you as a person and your history a little
Okay.
bit. So take us back to 13-year-old Will, man, when you were out. I don't know if it was a dove hunt or what, but yeah, like what were those early days of bird hunting like for you?
Yeah. So the first time I ever saw it happen, it was close to where we dove hunt. It was a put and take quail hunt. It was right after, it probably would have been like the 27th or 28th of December. Um, and my dad grew up uh, with friends that hunted. His dad didn't. He went when there were invites. It wasn't until maybe, I guess, the fall before the Christmas in question, there was some event. He worked for a now, I guess, long gone, probably close to 20 years now, Wachovia Bank, that was here in North Carolina. And there was some sort of like sporting clays shoot that he had to go on with work. And so he went out and bought a shotgun, which that was the first time I can remember in my childhood that like owned a shotgun. And I started, of course, I'm a 13-year-old boy. I have a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
Like this is exciting for me. And he's like, well, hey, we can, this Christmas when we're down at the farm, we can go out and shoot some clays. Maybe we can go, do a little bird hunt or something. And I was like, man, that sounds awesome. So we got it booked up, and I could, there's the morning kind of blends into a lot of mornings. It's very similar, nothing in particular about day stands out up until I get to the moment where I watched probably like a 12-year-old, an old English pointer, go on point with this like 85-year-old man that was guiding us. And he had been the former sheriff in the county where we were. So he was a fun guy to walk around with in the woods for a morning. He had a lot of
Yeah.
stories. and just watching that dog go on point and the whole thing happen. Bird gets up, dad shoots it. It's a pointer, so he kind of showed us where the bird was and then went on about his business. But I just remember being kind of just stuck in that moment for the rest of the day and thinking
Mhm.
how cool that was. And then towards the end of the day, got my own opportunity, was able to kill a bird, and kind of, it didn't really, I wasn't off and running at that point, but I was absolutely hooked. And something inside me knew for a fact that like, I'll be chasing this until I'm, run myself into the ground. An old man, like, looking at that old dude that was walking us in the woods, it was like, yeah, that's going to be me one day.
Yeah, I love that, and I remember, so my first, like, introduction into, like, upland game, at least, like, we categorize rabbits as upland game here in Indiana
But
in the
yeah,
regs, and I remember how ecstatic I was to shoot something that was in motion, like, where my shot pattern intercepted this target that was in motion. I
yeah,
just thought that was the coolest concept, and I remember taking that excitement and then flipping through the regs and seeing these game birds that we have here with quail and pheasants, um, and just being enamored with the idea of, "Oh, this thing's, like, in the air even, and I've
yeah.
gotta shoot that," which I don't know, I feel like probably now, since it's been a long time since
I
I've
was just
shot a
about to say
rabbit,
that.
it'd probably be harder to shoot for me, probably shoot a rabbit now than a bird in the air, but,
I mean,
uh
in the sporting clays world, that's considered the rabbit is the hardest shot.
yeah, yeah, the one that rolling on the ground, yeah, I
Mhm.
actually just had my first exposure to that this spring, and, that was a lot of fun. Um, but but yeah, I remember just being enamored with that, and I had a very similar experience with you or as you did, where we went to a game farm and, hunted these pheasants that they'd put out, and we hunted with this old it was an old setter as well. I mean, he was his I'll never forget it too, his name was Luke, and, I think he was probably deaf in one ear, like all that kinda
Yeah.
stuff that old bird dogs get, but I'll never forget, man, when we took off through the field, and when he caught that scent, even as an old dog, his spat got all straightened out, and I mean,
Mhm.
he turned into a young dog again, and that really I don't know how moving of an experience that was because I was very more driven towards the birds at that point than the dogs. And I'd say that even still to this day, like I'm still very fascinated by the birds as much as I love bird dogs. And like, I don't know how much I would do it even without bird dogs still. But that definitely like impressed me my very first interaction with a bird dog. So it's cool to hear that you had a pretty similar entryway into all of it. But there is this very, by your own words, there's this very noticeable moment when you're 20 years old or so where
Yeah.
that switch really, like, flipped for you. So, where did it turn from just, like, excited about it to, like, "Oh, man, I'm all in on this bird hunting stuff?"
It came down to opportunity. I but so maybe went 2 or 3 times a year, my dad and I, we would have fun. There's a little wood duck hole behind the farm I mentioned that, is in the Project Upland film, Little Gray Birds, and, it just once or twice a year, I loved it. I just, you're young, you're in high school, you're back at your parents' house. There's schedules, there's extracurriculars. It's just your time is not necessarily your own yet.
Mhm.
Whereas once I got to college, I go to Clemson, and I was actually explaining this to somebody this past weekend that Clemson's pretty unique in the world of like American colleges and universities, and there's really only a few of these, and it's what's known as land grant. Uh, so they when I was there, the number, and it may have changed since, but the number was 17,000 acres of developed land within, about a half hour drive of campus.
Yeah.
Multiple parcels, but all open for student use, mountain biking, hiking, swimming on the lake, fishing, some areas open for hunting. There's some WMAs in there where we could hang deer stands. We could go duck hunt. And, in South Carolina, there's the hunting culture I felt was a little stronger than what I grew up around in Winston-Salem.
Mhm.
Just more people did it. So more of my friends did it down there. More people started inviting me, and I could go. I was there at school. It was totally up to me if I wanted to skip class and go hunt.
Yeah.
and I had fun. I exercised that free will quite a bit. My
Yeah.
GPA reflected it for sure.
Yeah.
But it was fun. There was a really one friend in particular, a guy named Davis Crosby, and he had a yellow lab named Banks, and would invite me. It was November. He was talking about going, and I was like, man, I'd like to do that. He's like, all right, well, you're going home for Thanksgiving next week. You bring your waders back. We got a couple weeks before exams, once or twice, and then when you get back in January, bring your waders and your stuff with you, and we'll go. And just kind of that was where when I switch flipped. What I mean is like that was when the light bulb kind of went off in my head. That was like, okay, public lands exist. Like I don't have to be at the farm that my family owns. We have our private access. I can be anywhere. I can look this up. I can buy a license. I am of legal age. I can just go do this. And I, that's probably going to sound weird to some listeners. Like, of course, duh. But for me, that was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing this.
Yeah. Love
Just
that,
of
man.
my own volition, just because I want to. And and from there, we really started off and running. It came to a trainer, and that was, the beginning of on a season without hunting 30 days since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you really have your college to thank for kind of offering you up the ability to go just kind of explore that what sounds like a playground, in a lot of ways.
It really was. There was they actually had a 3-hour credit class called Hunting Traditions, and I took that class. A guy was taught by the 4-H extension agent, Rick Willie. He is still there. I looked him up recently just because I got curious. I was telling somebody about this class, and he's still there. I was teaching the class, and the really cool thing about that, we actually got to go on a hunt with our class. Rick somehow had a relationship with the founder of QDMA, who had a big plantation called Millery right outside of Columbia, South Carolina, which is about, a 2-hour drive from campus, something like that. So we went down there one weekend, got to go do a deer hunt. A few of us, myself included, shot deer. They, told us which processors to take them to. And it was, that was really cool. I don't think many folks could say that that's a class that their university offered,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, that's definitely something to be appreciated about that. I mean, it's very much just woven into the fabric, I feel like, of the Carolina, Virginia area of just kind of it's part of that heritage, I think, just like hunting and fishing and in the outdoors, and not
everybody's a casual participant, I would say.
Yeah.
Like there's not a strong hunting culture in Winston-Salem necessarily. I don't have many friends that like to do it as much as I do, but most guys I know own a gun. They don't necessarily have a dog, but they got a shotgun. They go once or twice a year. They get invited. They've got a jacket and waders or, brush pants or whatever.
Yeah.
Most everybody's ready to like be a casual participant, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, and I'd say it's kind of like that here, sort of, with like the deer hunting, where there's definitely diehard people. But with, there's also a lot of people that are just like, yeah, I go out like the opening day of the shotgun season, and that's just like our Thanksgiving tradition, or whatever. And then as far as bird hunters go here, I mean, it's either like you're either in or you're out, basically.
Yeah.
There's so few of us, but
well, and if you're on wild birds, there's no room for like dipping a toe in casually. You're not going to be successful. You're not going to build confidence, which is not going to make you want to do it more.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. It's like, I mean, quail for you there, quail for me here. And I don't have any pheasants immediately. I have to go to northern Indiana for that. But even at that rate, it's like, yeah, you don't dip your toe into it, because if you just dip your toe, like, you're not going to find any birds. It's not, you have to, and this isn't me tooting my horn, it's just the nature of it, because anybody else that lives here that hunts birds just knows that's the case too on public land. It's like, I have, like, last season, one of the last days of season, I went out and, like, in less than 5 minutes, I flushed my first covey, but that's like so rare. Like, does not happen, so
you got to be in.
You got to be in, yeah. So you mentioned the Little Gray Birds video from Project Upland, came out here a few years ago talking about dove hunting down in your neck of the woods. And I knew for this upcoming dove season, and that's something that I like to participate in several times out of the year. I would say I am a casual dove hunter,
Yeah.
um, but I definitely wanted to put out an episode talking to all about just strategy and decoys and the social aspect and kind of like how we hunt and what to do when a field gets stale and like that kind of just things like that. And I was scratching my head like, man, who am I gonna find for that? And I remember that Project Upland film that I watched a few years ago. I was like, yeah, that guy. I wonder who that guy is. And so I kind of had to track you down. And once I sent that invitation out to you, you graciously said yes. So yeah, if anybody hasn't watched Little Gray Birds from PU and for all the PU videos for that matter, I mean they're fantastic videos that are shot and like really just
I'm
beautifully
always blown
captured.
away by what, most people don't realize that we're a team of 5,
Yeah.
that's spread out all over the country. Like we're almost never in the same room together, but I'm the business development advertising arm. I do some contribution on the content side, but really I'm tooting the horn of, AJ, Jennifer, and Gabby right now, like what they're
Yeah.
able to put together on a consistent basis with the size team and the resources available. It's always mind blowing.
For sure. For
Very
sure.
proud to be a part of the org, and was super proud when they were like, "Hey, would you be up for being in a film?" And that was to have done something kind of for at that point. I've been in total bird hunting for like 20 years, 25 years, somewhere along this on how you
Mhm.
count like the casual years, and to be finally like, to feel just a little bit of recognition for something is really cool. Like that was, I don't know if you had a chance to read the story that went along with it. In that summer 25 issue, which actually, again, to shout out Gabby, just won the Professional Outdoor Media Association's 2025 issue of the year for
Wow.
print magazine or for print publication. So we're real proud of that. And yeah, I touch on like you know, that was a point in my life when I definitely needed some wins. We'll say
Mhm.
that. I don't know without giving away the article, because I think it's a good one and you should go order the magazine and read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was I was a very humbling experience. Very proud to have been a part of it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'll second that too with just even just from the magazine side of things. You're 30, 45, something like that, for the year and you get I can't remember if it's 4 or 6 publications, but
4, yeah, we're quarterly.
or okay, yeah, and they're just absolutely beautiful, of a publication that's put together and uh yeah, and, like, if you take care of them, I mean, they will last you forever. They don't they're very sturdy and just and not only that,
Yeah.
but, like, quality stories, very, very well-written stories, and, yeah, it's not a ton of, advertisement or anything like that. It's just a lot more just stories and just kinda and that's not knocking any other publication, I'm not saying that, but it's just it's I don't know. It just kinda feels like you're just
No,
sitting
I was
around
a
telling
subscriber
stories.
before I ever worked there.
Yeah.
I was a subscriber for like 3 years and saw the job posting and was lucky enough to make a good impression and be brought onto the team because it's been a great place to, you know, be professional. I think I touched on the film. Like I've had a lot of jobs. There's not many bosses that want to hear that like, hey, the field is loaded, the birds are here. I got to knock off and head down. And I just don't ever have to think about that in the
That's
capacity
awesome.
of working a
Yeah.
project album, which is nice.
Yeah.
It fits very well into my life.
Yeah, just kinda they get it, right, and so that's good. Well, man, let's go ahead and dive in now, and,
All right.
I want you to feel full liberty, Will, to take this in any direction because, I mean, I've dove hunted for numerous years now, but I would definitely I wanna hear what you have to say about it. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, man. I mean, a lot of us, I think, participate in dove hunting, and like I said, here in a couple of days, it'll be a month, and we'll be sitting on a dove field somewhere. A lot of us will be.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, like I don't know, like however you want to take this, maybe I'll just kick it off. Like, what do you think it is about dove hunting that makes like so many hunters flock to the fields for the first few days of season? And I would say that probably 90% or more of your harvest happens like in those first 3 days of September,
But yeah, for
uh,
sure.
than like the rest of, like here in Indiana at least, like we have it's weird. It's like broken up into three different seasons. It's like September to October 20th or something like that. And then there's some November hunting you can do, and then it goes out again and it comes back into December. And I'm assuming that has something to do with like staggering migration patterns or something like that. But nonetheless, those first handful of days, that's where the bulk of the hunting's done. And then it goes pretty much ice cold for the most part, from hunter participation. But yeah, so maybe we'll start there. Like what do you think it is that makes so many people like just show up in, army like fashion, those first handful of days?
I think it depends on the segment of population. I think there's a couple different things. It's really attractive to folks who are maybe a little more casual because there's a big social nature. You don't have to be quiet. You don't have to be still. You probably should. We'll touch on that later. But initially, especially early season, a lot of these are like first year birds, and sometimes in even case it even juveniles. It's not, you can get away with a lot of things that, the mistakes that beginners tend to make. Also, I think for like folks in those early stages, like when I was a kid, I used to love going because you get to shoot a lot, and that it's something I don't know if you remember with like the stages of a sportsman. I forget who wrote this. I have, you know, I think I'm squarely, it's like the fourth or fifth. I'm in methodology right now, but everybody starts as like a shooter. You're excited to get out there when you're a little kid. It's undeniable, at least for me and most of the little boys that I've introduced to it. Like, they're like, when do I get to shoot this gun?
Mm-hmm.
And so dove hunting provides ample opportunity for that. I think as you kind of progress into the shooting itself is some of the most challenging on offer. And so it becomes really like I touch on this in the film. I can remember early on being very frustrated by it and wanting to get better at it and being like, in some cases, jealous of the guys in the field who were good at it and being like, damn, how do I get there? What do I have to practice to figure this out? And, I think as you progress further into that, like for me, I say I'm squarely in methodology. Like it's a little bit like, I don't want to just catch a fish. I want to do it on top water. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be on a dry flyer, this very specific kind. I'm looking for a bird that's entered the field in a certain way that is drawn to the setup that I've created, whether it's how I position myself or maybe a few decoys on the ground. I'm looking for like one flight path. I want to see them flutter. And it's a little bit, they don't necessarily cut quite like ducks do, but they'll start like a flutter and they start to cut down. And
Right.
that's, to shoot a bird now, I'm squarely like, I want to shoot a bird that's fully committed, that I have like outsmarted, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, they're a 10-ounce bird. They've got a brain about the size of a peanut. So like, I realize that that does sound maybe a little ridiculous, but they're a little more like wily than I think they get credit for. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things that draw people to dove hunt. And really that's a self-reflection, I guess. There's a lot of things that draw me to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot I loved about it early on, and it's really cool because it's been able, as I have changed as a person and changed as a sportsman and how I want to conduct 100% game, it's been able to evolve with me, which is really cool. I have, I think I touch on this in the film as well. There's a contemplative nature, especially to those later season hunts when you're solo, because you have to be stationary. It's not like almost every other, you got to be on the move. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain amount of training, within your dog or yourself, that you got to be willing to sit still for long stretches, especially if you're the only one covering a field. That like, you're going to have to look at a lot of birds who will not be redirected to you, will have
Mm-hmm.
no reason to change their flight path. Like if you're not on the X, to quote one of our great advertising partners at Project Upland, if you're not in the right spot, it's not gonna happen. It isn't. And there's a few things you can do to stack the deck in your favor. There's one specifically is they love power lines. They just power line cutovers. And I think that's about, for me, having watched them for so long, I think that's about the perch. If I really think about the way doves enter a field, they almost never fly straight to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They fly from, you see them coming towards the field, and they usually like a dead tree, a power line, something that gives them a place to perch and then scan the field floor. And they're looking for danger, I would assume, because all of them stop and then fly down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, I can't think of a time I've seen a dove done, enter a field some way other than they hit a perch, then they hit the ground. So if you are near a power line, that's a natural perch. In our field on, our place in Harrells, North Carolina, and we see a lot of, I see this on a lot of public fields. They'll just put up a braided cable between two, like basically, we call them light poles, telephone poles, power poles. It's like those pine trunks that have a bunch of tar on the outside.
Yeah.
That are treated. Yeah. You'll just run a braided steel cable between two of those and anchor it into the ground on either side.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you've got, you're not risking like shutting off the lights or the internet if somebody gets a little too happy when they see one fluttering over the line there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, no, there's a lot of good stuff there. I think about too, like, and I'm sure you've experienced this too. One thing I've noticed is that doves really, if there's a dead tree in the setting, they will always prefer that dead tree, because I think they just like to be able to see. They just kind of like looking around. And so if you're hunting like in a very natural landscape, then that's a big thing, is trying to, like, if you're positioned quasi near like a dead tree, not to obviously shoot them out of the tree, but to like you're trying to cut them off between maybe where they're trying to go and then trying to go to that tree. Another thing is I never see doves, at least in my experience, I never really see them land like in tall weedy stuff.
Bare ground. They gotta have bare ground.
They've got to have bare ground. I really don't know the reason for that. Maybe you do, but I noticed that they're not going to be like a pheasant or a quail or something like that. It's going to be.
I mean, I think some of it's wingspan, man. They're small. When we get a look at them, usually they're sitting on a power line. They have their wings down at their side. When you get one in your hand and you really stretch the wings out, I mean, it can go like 2+ feet.
Yeah.
For a bird that weighs 10 ounces, to have a wingspan beyond 20 to 24 inches, I mean, that's insane. So when they're coming down and they got those wings out, I think it's just they need space.
Yeah.
That's
a good point. I've never thought about that.
Tight spots. Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually they're moving up about 55 miles an hour in flight. So like they got to hit the brakes. They can't land, they got to have wings out.
This episode is brought to you by Gundog Central. If you're looking for your next bird dog, field trial prospect, or even hunting hound, Gundog Central is your one-stop shop. They've made it simple to browse a wide range of hunting dogs for sale, all in one place. Whether you're an upland hunter chasing roosters or quail, a waterfowl enthusiast living for cold mornings in the marsh, or someone competing in field trials, Gundog Central connects you with the right dog for your pursuit. One feature I think is really cool is the interactive map Gundog has. Just click on a state and find a breeder. It's that simple. They're dedicated to making this the best site to find your next hunting dog. And if you're a dog trader or own a kennel, listing your hunting dog for sale is easy and completely free. Start your search or post your next prospect today at gundogcentral.com. This episode is brought to you by Ballad of the Bird Dog, providing modern, design-forward shopping right in the heart of Brenham, Texas. Skeet, founder and owner Jared Anderson's legendary bird dog, showed us what hunting companions have shown their handlers for generations. That instinct, loyalty, and honest hard work create moments that last forever. And that same philosophy is stitched into everything they do. Ballad of the Bird Dog is built on tradition and heritage, inspiring well-built, essential goods designed to last. It's about simplicity, dependability, products you can trust from people that just get the bird dog lifestyle. If you believe in quality over flash, heritage over hype, and in goods that work as hard as you do, you'll feel right at home. Visit balladofthebirddog.com or its beautiful brick and mortar shop in Brenham, Texas, and experience the story for yourself.
Right. Yeah. Well, that segues us like really well into like the shooting aspect of it.
Yeah.
I always tell people that if you can hit a dove, man, you can hit anything, because I've never seen a more athletic bird in flight, is how I would describe it, where, not only are they, because they don't just kind of flutter and twitter like a sparrow would.
They can stop and change direction. They're Barry Sanders.
Yes.
For the
And
football fans out there listening, like they can stop and change direction on a dime.
it's
They can go
remarkable.
from full speed to like brakes and 4 feet under where you just were tracking them. Yeah, it's confounding.
Yeah. Yeah. You've probably seen too, like where you'll shoot, and I don't know if it's just like your pattern going past them, but they'll do that quick dip and then like return to the line that they were on. So they're
I'm
just
convinced those are birds that have been shot at before.
Yeah.
I mean,
it may be.
to see a bird respond, because you see it in ducks a lot of times. Like if you're duck hunting and maybe you got some birds working and somebody 400 yards away shoots, like you're on some public land, your bird will instinctively come off the deck like 100 yards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just they flip the wings back and they go up.
Yeah.
And I think as responding to gunfire, I'm convinced that those are mature birds that have been shot before or shot at before.
Yeah. Well, so
Seems
let's
like
talk
a learned
about
behavior anyway.
For sure. Yeah. Let's talk about tips for, because you can go through boxes of shells and maybe bring a bird or two home, and it can really humble you. So what's, over the years of you doing it, what's like some tips that you have for becoming a better, specifically like a dove shooter, that I think will translate to a lot of other game birds as well?
The first tip would be scout and figure out where they're landing. Position yourself there, because crossing shots are hard. You can make them, but like crossing shots on doves are crazy. Maybe you need like a 5-foot leap. You know what I mean? Like you got it. It's not a clay. It's not a quail. It's not. I mean, I've had a few contacts with like sharp-tailed grouse and rough grouse, and it's even a little bit tougher than that. Because just they are quick. They are small. And if you go like, I haven't been at a trade show this past weekend, this is fresh in my mind. When you see like shotgun pattern, you know what I mean, on the target, like when somebody's patterning a shotgun, a lot of the ammo companies will bring those to their booth and they show you, here's our pattern at 40 yards, here's our pattern at 50 yards. And look at that pattern. I'm like, I see like 6 holes where a dove could fit. You know what I mean? And I think about all those times when I'm like, I know I was on that bird. What happened? And I just patterns aren't a perfect thing. That's not a perfect even distribution. And, sometimes they just get lucky. Sometimes we get the magic BB that just one lands in the right spot, because they're not a particularly tough bird. So that's, I would say the second tip is I've started shooting a side-by-side this past season, and I've really enjoyed having a choke selector effectively with a double trigger. That's not something I ever had before. In like a semi, I would always have to like pick a modified or pick an improved, and wondering if you should have switched back and forth. In a double, you can just run both. And I think so chokes are a big deal. Improved if you can't have both, improved and modified if you can. And learn what 30 yards looks like. It's tough. Like they're a small bird, so depth perception is weird. Really, like it, to the point of if I pick my spot, I will grab a stick, or if I find just anything I find laying around, I will pace out to 30 yards and plant that thing in the ground. And so then I have a visual reference of like, that's 30 yards right there. And if the bird's not on top of that stick, it's going to be a hard shot. You can stretch out to like 40, 50. I have, this past season, I actually with 2 barrels, and it was witnessed. Just for anybody out there who thinks I might be about to make this up, I tripled. So 2 birds on the first. I had a group coming into land. 2 birds on the first barrel, the improved, and the third one, there were maybe like 5 of them, and so 3 birds left, and 1 left by himself and was going away, and leveled out on him where he fell, I stepped it off. Like I could see where my dog, kind of went down in the sand to get him. It was at like 78 yards. So I bet you when I shot, that bird was probably somewhere around 60, 65 when it was hit
Wow.
and, sailed out.
Yeah.
So it can be done. If you feel like you're on the bird and you feel like you got a good look, try it, because they don't come back a lot. They're pretty transient. You know what I mean? I notice in our field, we have a family group that's there year round of like 20 to 40 birds at any given time. And you can hunt them in the winter, but you're hunting ducks and they're going to come in a group, and you have one chance to shoot. You might get a couple singles to come back, but then they're gone for the day. Once they've been shot at, they just kind of are wary. And 20s, shoot a 20.
Okay.
Yeah, a 20 gauge is the play. I find the report is way less. It has way less of an effect on them.
Yeah.
I do. It's might sound crazy to folks, but after, especially like the last 5 years planting my own field and being out there multiple times of the year and really watching it close and like gathering some data, the 12 gauge report sends them the next field. A 20 gauge report will send them to the trees on the other side of the field. And, maybe after 30 minutes or an hour of quiet, they get hungry and fly back down,
Yeah. 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 That's a really good, I'd never thought about that, like how much quieter a 20 gauge would be than a 12. I did notice that when I'm trying to think the most recent, I actually don't think I shot a couple doves last year, but it was just like happenstance when I was prairie chicken hunting. But sitting like deliberately over a field and like purposefully hunting doves, I don't think I did that at all last year. But the year before that, I did with my 20 gauge, and I shot just terribly. And I think it was just because I can swing it so fast. I think I was shooting. I'm not saying I was shooting ahead of the birds, but I just was not on target. But with the 12, I felt like I was able just to kind of follow a lot more calmly, and I was shooting better. But I never thought about the report, of the barrel. But that's a really good tip to, if you want birds to keep coming back. And it's obviously not like a guarantee, but
no, it's not.
But that would make sense that they'd be a little less skittish of a, there's a significant difference of a boom from a 12 to a 20. There's pretty significant difference. And I was thinking too about when I said, if you can hit a dove, you can hit anything. And it's not like tit for tat in the sense like a pheasant or a quail. There's a lot more of a lot of times like a line of flight that they're doing. And it's a slower flight and bigger target, maybe not with a quail, but with a pheasant, obviously,
I would say probably a little bigger in the body for sure.
Yeah. So that, it's just a different shooting style where you're having to get out in front of the bird significantly more than, a pheasant or a quail even. And so,
and it's not as reactionary. You have a lot more time to think about it because you have to watch that bird cross the field and come to you. So sometimes that helps. Sometimes you get in your head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
you're like,
I'm typically
dude,
the
this
latter.
one's locked in. Like, this one's mine. This bird's coming straight to me. I'm ready. You pull up, and then you're like, what the hell happened?
That's typically my experience.
Sanders,
where
right? Like, you had him wrapped up, and you're like, what the world?
Yeah, that's typically if I am watching it for a long time, I'm doomed. It's kind of those more surprise shots is the ones that I typically do better on. Let's talk about decoys. So I know you said you wanted to kind of go on a soapbox about that. So I'll be curious what you have to say. You're out on the decoys.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Specifically. And that was a revelation of this past year. I had success with spinning wing dove decoys for so long. Like there were companies that were making the big tree with multiples out there. It just, I don't know what it is, man. I'd say over maybe the past 3 seasons. So 3 seasons ago, I started having this thought, but I had so much success with them for so long. I kept putting them out. Even went to like the ones that are like pucks with the little wing that spins on top. And I thought that was a great product design and maybe makes them a little less skittish. went to those, and finally it was this season. I was like, I'm going to do this. And opening day, here's the thing. You're a host. There's people coming. You try not to be too much of a jerk and like telling people exactly like, here's the rules and that's not allowed. And like, put that away. It's there. Everybody's got kids with them. So you have to be a little, bite your tongue some, I guess. At least I find I do. And it was maybe the last week of September before I got to a place where it was just me and a couple friends down there. I was like, hey guys, I want to try something. And man, it was night and day.
Mm-hmm.
It was night and day. It was the 4th weekend of September. So we're getting right down to the end of our first split in North Carolina. These birds have been shot at and shot at and shot at. Like they should have been skittish. And that was the day I hit the triple. I mean, I had them coming in groups of 5 and 10, bombing into my field. And it was a Monday and we had shot it the prior Monday, but we had given the field a week off and went out with no mojos, sat in the same spot I sat and shot at them the week before. And it was night and day.
Really?
Yeah.
So no decoys.
Spinning,
Yeah.
No spinning wing, no bodies on the ground. Since then, what I have done, I don't know if you saw this really old school move. This is how guys used to do it. They would make like the bodies of the dove bodies that had a little, almost looked like you'd hang them like a Christmas ornament. Like they had a plastic circle molded into the back, where you could tie something off to it, right? So what you do is you get like a 1 ounce like egg weight with a swivel molded into it, tie that off to maybe some 10-pound mono on your Zebco 33, throw that over the power line in the field, collect the weight, tie it off to the back of the decoy, reel up until the dove is pretty much, like the dove can't tell if the silhouette's here or here on the line. If it's just like it puts the silhouette like right there on the line. By the time they get close enough to realize that maybe something's not right. So, and that I would run like 1 or 2 of those. And that would help just to make them feel like, okay, there's 2 birds perched on the line. It's safe. I'm going to go check that. I found that help. But in terms of like the motion stuff, I have gone completely away from it and have resolved that this opening day, I have to find a way to like be diplomatic about this. But I know that everyone will have a better shoot if we lay off the spinning wings.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting.
Which is controversial. I'm sure some of those companies spend advertising money too. So, I'm maybe shooting myself in the foot a little bit, but it's what I've seen and it's what I believe. And maybe there's a new style of decoy that could come on the market. Some innovation, much like when those came out, was all the rage for a reason. I mean, the early days of spinners in a dove field, I would, shoot out of a group of 4 and watch the 3 go like not even 100 yards and just hit a U and come straight back and try to land on the top of that spinner again. There was definitely something to it, but I think now so that hunt I'm describing right there, that would have been in like 2013 or 14. We 12 years on from there. There's a new generation of doves born every year. You know what I mean? That genetic imprint, that sort of learned behavior that just gets passed on generation to generation. Now we're seeing birds that are born to birds who are scared of the spinner wings, 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
And there's, maybe they're not that smart. I could be wrong. I'm not a biologist. But that's what I saw on the field this year. And I used it to my success on public fields as well, specifically looking for people running spinning wings and going to the opposite corner, not because I had seen birds landing there, not because I thought there was food there, just intentionally positioning myself on the exit route from somebody hunting spinners. And
yeah,
which that's a fun thing to watch too. I don't know how much topography there is where you hunt. We have a little bit. Most of it is kind of artificial. That like we're in a forest and then there's fields cleared in the forest and roads. And so there are cuts in the treetops that just create like these natural travel corridors. They tend to follow waterways, just anything that makes a line on the landscape, they'll kind of follow it when they move. So if you are hunting somewhere with some decent undulating topography, they will kind of they'll follow those low spots in the land as they fly. As they leave a field, they will go to the farthest point where the trees funnel them, and then they get to that back corner, and then they get up off the deck. And I don't know what that behavior is about. Maybe there's avian predator from above they're worried about.
Yeah.
I certainly notice if a hawk shows up, they leave the field.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
kites don't bother them. We have Mississippi kites that visit where we are in southeastern North Carolina. Smaller birds of prey don't bother them. But if you see a falcon or a hawk, you're not going to see any doves for a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
And they're around. They just get in the trees and get quiet and hide.
Right. Yeah. A lot of interesting stuff in there. Going back to the decoys, I've definitely seen a lot of success with the spinners, but I take that notion too, especially once season's been in for a while, that it's this is probably going to have adverse effects for me in my success.
Yeah.
Because it's just like with ducks too, right? I mean, they get wise to that stuff pretty quick, and once they've been shot at it, even just a time or two, they associate. I don't think, like you said, they have a brain the size of a peanut. It's not like they're logically thinking through all these things that have happened and all the trauma they've experienced so far. But they do associate this with that, I think, and because all they're thinking about is survival all the time. So,
it's one of the only game birds in North America with a population that's on the rise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We got more white wings, more mourning doves, more Eurasian collared doves. Really, I think mourning doves are declining in where I am, but that's because Eurasian collared doves are moving in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're good at evading. They're still around. Their populations are growing for a reason, even in the face of all the habitat loss and development we see these days. There's something to it. They're good at surviving at getting. That's why they fascinate me. On the surface, they're so unremarkable. You see them from a distance, they're gray. You literally see these things feeding near a dumpster in a Walmart parking lot, right?
Right.
It's not, but there's just something about them, especially when you get up close to them. You see those wings spread out, the colors on them, the way the sun will shine off of them, and just I dig the transient nature as well. We always say, because where our place is in southeastern North Carolina, we're close to 95.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've all driven down to Florida for spring break. So these birds are averaging 50, 60 miles an hour in flight. They don't have to go like this, like the highway does. They can get up, and when they want to migrate, this bird could leave our field on a Saturday morning, and by Saturday night, he could be feeding in a field in Jacksonville, Florida.
Right.
Right. It could be
somewhere
somewhere along the coast. They move. And so that's the other thing I would tell people when it comes to tactics, go often, because these birds are migrating. And so we talk about wariness.
Mm-hmm.
The way to combat that is be there when the new birds show up. And just a little about dove migration, because they just haven't really been studied much, not ducks. I think there is a banding program. I've never seen one or talked to anyone who has killed a banded dove, but I've heard tell that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we're still learning so much more. I'm suspicious that their migration patterns could be just as much east-west as they are north-south. I think in the wintertime, what I see in the Carolinas, because we kind of dance on this line a lot, the freezing line. Where's that 540 line?
Mm-hmm.
The upper atmosphere, where's the air that's below freezing coming down to? And usually the doves are 30 miles south of that.
Okay.
And they kind of stay with that. But that line doesn't just go north and south, the way the mountains are. I think with storms, they move east-west just as much. Wind blows them. Early season in North Carolina, we see hurricanes affecting them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times I've had a field loaded up on August 30th and been just jacked. There was one year, uncle that lives near our field caught two guys. He thought he had busted somebody trespassing. He saw two guys in ghillie suits walking from the back of our to the road. We don't live at the house down there full time. I have two uncles that live on either side, so they're really good about keeping an eye on the place. If they see something, somebody poking around, they're going to go say, "Hey, what's up? What you doing here?" So that's what he was doing, and it turned out they were North Carolina wildlife agents who had snuck in undercover to see if my field was baited illegally, because there were so many birds in it. And this was on August 31st. So I get this call. I'm frothing, foaming at the mouth. I'm so ready. and maybe Dorian. Can't remember the name of the hurricane. Comes through, goes up the coast. Didn't really even hit North Carolina, but changed the weather enough around us that by the time I got down there on like Thursday, September 2nd, it was desolate. There's not a bird in the whole county. I'm looking at like not just my place, but cut cornfields, everywhere the birds should be, and they're nowhere.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a wind moves them around a lot. You know, they don't live on the ground. They live in a tree. So I don't know this for a fact, but I have to imagine that, you know, if blow comes, they kind of got to get away from the wind in order to be safe. So rather than try to stay in a tall tree and stick it out in a 60-mile-an-hour blow, 70-mile-an-hour like tropical storm level, they'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Catch a tailwind and go where they go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you make a really good point about how I feel like they just kind of fly under the radar. They're not, they're a very unassuming bird. But when you get one up close, especially you get a mature second year bird or whatever, and hold it up to the sun, there's like so much iridescence in the feathers.
Yeah.
And they're cool birds, you know.
So check this out. I take something off the wall. I'll be right back. This and this. So these are like the kind of apex tail feather. I'm going to hold my hand. This one, familiar to most waterfowl hunters, right? That's a big old bull sprig pintail.
Okay.
This is a mature mourning dove.
Okay.
That I shot next to it, right? Like, so pintails are thought of for being so ornamental because they got that big long feather. That's the apex tail feather of like, I think this was on that Project Upland shoot right there. I mean, it's maybe, you know, it's not that much longer, right? Like, that's a cool, I don't know. I look at that. I have it in a picture frame up here on my wall, kind of stuck into the edge. I look at it all the time and just like, these birds are underappreciated, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, it's fascinating. Like you said, that there's still a lot we don't know about them and a lot of mystery, and just not a lot of science has been dedicated to, you know, studying them, you know, or data that's available, you know, compared to, you know, duck migration or, you know, quail habitat or, you know, you name it.
Or like woodcock, you know, we got the University of Maine to, you know, an upland bird. That's another one of our wild upland birds that I spent a lot of time hunting in North Carolina. You know, because they will hold so tight and you can capture a woodcock, we can put GPS trackers on woodcock. We know where they're flying. We know that they'll do like a 300-mile rip in one night to get south, which is cool in its own right. And I look at a woodcock and I'm like, man, you can't tell me a dove's not doing 500 and 600-mile rips in one flight. There's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to be just how they're built. If a woodcock can do 250 to 300 in one jump, a dove, I mean, these things have got to be on the move.
Yeah, because they're a lot
way more than we know.
A lot more trim and just like, I mean, they can just book it, you know, compared to a woodcock. It's a lot more of just it's like 50 feet or so off the ground that they migrate at. And, you know, and they're, it's a lot less, you know, overwhelming, you know, when you watch a woodcock fly compared to a dove, and how fast a dove can truly be.
Oh, yeah, it's fun too if you get ahead of one of those fronts in the winter, like in late season. So like in North Carolina, we go out the first Saturday in October after coming in the first Saturday in September. So we don't get 9/1. We have to wait. And it's the first Saturday in the month of September. So like and in the years where like last year was like this, we have like, what was it, Saturday, August 30th or something, you know, of Labor Day weekend. So we couldn't hunt until Monday because we have to wait until, So some years we have to wait until Monday. We don't get that Saturday, but we go out October and we don't come back until duck season comes in. So that's the first Saturday in November here. And it'll stay until about Thanksgiving and go out. And then it comes again December until the end of January. So when you get down to like December and January and you can go sit and get ahead of one of those fronts and really see like hundreds upon hundreds of birds come into a field to feed because they are coming off of a long flight. They need some fuel and they can feel the front like breathing down their back. They know they got to pull up and get back and do another jump and get south. That is really cool. They don't act the way they act in the early season. They're a lot more like hunting a wood duck or a teal or something.
Yeah.
And at that
Yeah.
point in the year, they've gone back and forth so many times following that freezing line. They've encountered enough hunters. You really have to sit completely still. I have a call that I use, like that blows a mourning dove note. You got to be hidden. We'll build blinds, like, bring up one of those like goose hunting blinds for a dog, make them get in that, and like really, it's fun. You gotta really think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sets us up nicely. Like, take us through like some gear that you feel is essential. I feel like with dove hunting, I mean, it can be kind of as basic or complex as you want it to be
Uh-huh.
with gear. But yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about camo, concealment, like
Yeah.
kind of wrap that up all together for us.
So let me think about my dove hunting kit. 20 gauge. I've been shooting a side by side. I have an autoloader that I'll take because it's got the synthetic setup if I'm in the rain. Another good note: light rain doesn't bother them. They will continue to fly and feed in a light rain. If you see like your daily forecast is less than a half inch total, and it's kind of spread out, go hunt. They're not nor bad. They will shut down during thunderstorms. Like it starts blowing, but yeah. So gun that maybe can get wet if it's a rainy day. I usually have a dry bag, like backpack that I pack with me that I'm bringing about 64 ounces to, maybe 96 for the dog. Probably another 30 ounces of water for me because it's usually hot. So like water is a big one. You got to make sure you're keeping your dog cool. Ideally, you're set up in the shade. If you're not, there are companies that make like, there's like cold packs that come out of your freezer. They got like gel in them. They're meant for like icing your knee or something.
Yeah.
They make big ones that your dog can on that you can like keep in a cooler and keep ready to go and, fold it out, let your dog lay on that if they get overheated so you can get them cooled down really fast.
Yeah.
Because that's a big concern here in the South. Stand for the dog to keep them off the ground. And conversely, strap for your birds. A lot of people do like the cooler. I use a strap with like the paracord and individual like leg cinches. And I found that if I keep them off the ground and I hang them, they cool down a lot faster than if I try to like put them in a bucket with a top on it. They start putting off heat, gets damp in there. The ground is not a good idea because ants will get on them. Bugs find them quick.
Yep. For sure.
So like I generally try to like hang my birds from a tree. So a game strap. I carry a dove call. MD1, Morning Dove 1. You hear them call, and it's pretty easy to replicate the note. And especially late season, I find that like if you can draw birds to you, they're talking to each other, trying to figure out who's at what tree making that noise. So if it's quiet early season, if there's a lot of shooting going on, a lot of people moving around, a lot of activity, probably not making much of a difference. Stool or chair for yourself, you're going to want something to sit on, something that folds up. I like something with a back. I carry a little like 3-legged Alps folding chair that I've had for, probably 20, 30 years at this point. It's about dry rotted. I need a new one. If anybody at Alps is listening, but it, something to sit on. And let's see, camo wise, I have this past year started wearing Optifade, and I think it makes a difference.
Okay.
Not to just keep doing the product plug thing, but a nice concealment pattern. Like the big step beyond that is breaking up your silhouette. A lot of times, especially early in the morning when I go out, it takes me a minute to be like ready to sit down. I'm fired up. If you must stand, you need to be standing next to a tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Something that you can't be just a silhouette out in the middle of a field.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing I would say is hunt field edges. It's better for your dog. You can find some shade, but also just anything you can do to break up your outline, it helps. Sun at your back, if you can get it, is absolutely killer. You get the sun in their eyes, it's over. They have no idea. You stand there and wave at them. Let's see. Find a food source. And that is not just an ag field. When you kill a bird, check their crop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially with doves, you should be doing that. I can't tell you how many times I've found like sickle pod, goat weed, a wild tomato, all kinds of grass seed, just any sort of native grass that grow. I mean, they they're eating seeds. They prefer corn, sunflowers, what have you, sorghum. If it's available, yes, those are higher calorie foods. They got sugar. Birds aren't dumb. They know that. They know what a high value food is versus not, but they'll eat what's available. Right. There's one of the best shoots I had in college was over a field of, it was mostly sickle pod. Some people call it potter's peas. That our 4-H extension buddy had told a few of us that had been in his class. We'd remained close with him, like, hey, the university is going to go cut that field over there next week. It's still September. I don't know what you boys got going on, but if I was you, I'd be sitting over there after they cut it. And I mean, he was right. It was a field of weeds. It didn't, wasn't much to it. Just mostly sickle pod, a lot of broadleaf stuff in there, some grasses, and anything that's freshly cut that's a fresh food source, they'll move to it, because that's something that I think a lot of people discount about them. A group of doves can clean up a food source pretty quick. I have learned in managing my field that, like, the first year I did it, I went down there and just cut all the sunflowers at one time. It was about a week before the season. We had a great shoot opener, and then there was no food left.
Yeah.
So, like, they're a little bit like locusts. Like, yeah, I'm sure people have heard the tales of, like, Argentina dove hunts and stacked thousands of birds. I mean, as I understand it, down there, they truly are a pest to the agriculture community, and they can absolutely clear out a harvest overnight if left unchecked in a field. And I noticed them. Yeah, they feed in groups, they feed big, and they keep moving.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff there. Yeah, the food source thing. I mean, because you got to think, like, they're that from the agricultural side of things. I mean, that's a very particular time of year that they're actually keying in on that. Like, but we just associate doves because of the way that we hunt them. We associate them with sunflowers or corn or millet or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you can have some killer hunts on, like, kind of these unassuming places, or these places that you would not
water holes
suspect.
too. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people discount, that needs to be near a dove field or any location you're going to try to hunt them. They got to have water nearby. And in some cases, especially later in the day, you can just hunt the water hole.
Yep. Yeah. I remember having a conversation with a fella that used to live out in Texas, and they just set up next to a pond or something like that. And, he would shoot doves that way. So, definitely don't discount that. Yeah, man, you're really you're really getting me fired up for dove season, and just I
can't wait,
capturing my imagination a little bit more for these birds, because it's like, they're pretty cool. So you're getting me excited here. But let's pivot and talk about dogs a little bit too. So tell us about Cheese, and just kind of like how you've implemented dog work into the dove field.
Yeah, it can be a little bit scary, especially in those early season hunts. There's a lot of, you got to decide. I think you knew I was talking about it. Everybody, you got to decide whether or not you trust the folks you're hunting with. Just straight up, like, birds are a thing. There's gonna be shooting happening while your dog's out. There's no way to control that. There's enough people in. So for me, it's steadiness is a big one. Like, that's the first and foremost in a dove field. And really, for me, the motivator behind that initially was just like, I don't want to be the guy whose dog ruins the hunt, because that happens. A dog, it's a lot for dogs. There's a lot of shooting. There's a lot of birds to mark, and they're going to have to learn to ignore a lot, which is really hard for a lot of dogs. It's not like going on an upland walk where, like, we're walking. Like, if I'm woodcock hunting with Cheese, I might shoot twice all day, and usually it's just me and him. Yeah. And he's very clear on what his job is. It doesn't get confusing for him. If I see him making game, he puts a bird up. He knows I'm going to shoot. It's going to be one and done. With dove hunting, it took him a while to learn to just, like, sit on the stand and key off of only me and my shooting. Because you want him marking birds. So I don't want him not watching the field, but to get him to understand, like, when you hear somebody shoot over there, that doesn't mean it's your job to go do something. In fact, they have a dog, and it's their dog's job, and you're going to have to sit here and watch that dog perform a retrieve. And, act like you got some sense. And so that's, you got to trust other folks, and you got to have steadiness, because that's a big one, is like, you want to be able to keep your dog next to you until you absolutely want them in that field for good reason. The other part of it is heat, early season. Like, your dog's body language. If they start, like, here's what we always say: every one of us can afford to buy chicken after it's over, right? Like, there's no bird that's worth running your dog into heat exhaustion,
Right.
or something worse, running them out into an unsafe retrieve over a dove. I mean, they're delicious. Don't get me wrong. I love them, but like, you just kind of, I think, approaching with safety in mind, number one, especially those early season hunts. It it weighs on my mind a lot because you always have new shooters. You got people who aren't out there much. Everybody's rusty, even the most experienced of us. We're rusty in terms of firearm handling when we come out there on September 1st. So, a big tip I always tell everybody: look through your bag. If you're shooting a 12, make sure you weren't carrying a 20 back in January and you don't have a shell, or vice versa. Like, sort through those kinds of things. I have at times load when I didn't mean to, because it was just laying in the bottom of my bag. And that's, an unpleasant surprise early in the morning when you think you're about to let off like a 2 3/4 9 shot and you've grabbed the 3-inch 2 shot.
Yeah. Right.
You're not ready for that. Hearing protection's a big one that I should have mentioned that in the gear kit. This is volume shooting is, a thing in dove hunting, really unlike any other up hunting pursuit or waterfowl. This is a volume deal. I think there was an old Field and Stream article way back when I was a kid that mentioned, and because this number is always stuck in my head, that like the average hunter expends like 5.5 shells per dove harvested in terms of like the U.S. Fish and Game HIP reports. And I believe it. There's a lot of shooting going on. And then I think just keep it fun for your dog. It's confusing. There's birds falling. Like, give them some grace, some benefit of the doubt. Like, they'll figure it out. Work on the steadiness piece. If they go pick up somebody else's bird, just walk it over to them, say sorry. Like, maybe hold them on the next retrieve. Like, they're going to make some mistakes. There's a lot going on with young dogs. If you keep it fun, it's a little bit like taking kids, right? You're monitoring for fun as much as you are safety. And the second it stops being fun, like, I put them up. You don't want them to hate it.
Right.
If you're taking the right shots, you're probably not going to have to walk more than 30, 40 yards to pick the bird up anyway. So that was something I had to really condition myself with early on. As excited as I am to hunt with this dog, and it's been a long off season, like, I have to know when to say enough, whether it's heat, whether it's a safety thing, whatever it may be. That's my biggest worry with dove hunting all the time, is like, just keep the
Yeah, 100%.
Especially on the public fields, which, like, every state in America probably, that allows dove hunting usually has great public opportunity. But, like, again, that trust situation, think long and hard about who you're out there with, and,
Yeah, and like you said, it's like, if it's just kind of read the room, and if it's like, I'm sensing that it's going to be better if I just leave the dog back. I mean, I can't even like recall right now a bird that I haven't recovered, and I don't use my dog for dove hunting. But you're right. I mean, if you're taking the right shots, you typically are able to find that bird most times. It's going to be out in an open, cleared area, that's been harvested typically. And even if it's like a public sunflower field, those stalks, like, it's so open underneath, like, you can still get in there and find the bird typically. And so, I mean, if it's just not conducive, for the dog to be there, then don't, it's not worth that risk. And then also, you make some great points just about, like,
well, I would say, like,
prioritizing your
what I
dog's
always tell people
safety
too, don't make the early season hunt their only exposure to it. Like, if you really want to have a good dove dog, like, you just like, if you want to get good at this yourself, it's practice. That's what builds confidence. It's the same is true for them. Like, take them on those solo hunts where it's lower pressure, where you might have a few less bird contacts, but they get a lot of practice kind of sitting, waiting, understanding exactly what we're looking for and what a bird does before I'm going to pick up the gun and shoot. I've noticed with Cheese, the birds he marks have evolved over years. When we first took him, every speck in the sky, he was watching, he's on it. And now it's very much like, he doves, but he knows what's too far, what we're not interested in versus what we are interested in, which is really cool.
that
If
is
you give
cool.
up, that's the gift of experience. And so I don't mean to scare people off of taking their dogs, but just with those early season hunts, there's a lot to watch.
For sure. No, it's a good point. Any tips for taking good pictures of doves? The way that I always phrase it with doves, it's like when you've got them all just kind of stacked up side by side on the tailgate or whatever, it's they almost, if you don't position it right, they just kind of look like a big wad of like wet rats or something. I noticed that you were talking about the hanging thing with the
Hang 'em,
paracord.
yeah.
But yeah, I want to hear any thoughts that you have maybe on just how to take a little bit better pictures of the doves.
So it goes against probably everything I try to do in the field, like just being present. And we're not out here to get pictures. We're out here to have an experience and hunt birds and spend time outside. But that said, do it quick. That's a big one, is like when that bird is fresh and, right first in your hand, right when the dog brings it back, that's when you want to get that picture.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you want some sunlight to kind of light up those, like that iridescence we were talking about. And then anything you can do to, if you're trying to stage a shot, like tail feathers or wing feather spread. And then close up, like detail shots. I think people overlook that a lot with doves. If you put it on a tailgate next to like other things in the back of your truck or what have you, like scale wise, there's almost no way for it to not look unimpressive. You know what I mean? But
100%.
if if you're getting close up detail shots, there's some really cool places on those. One thing that always strikes me is when their eyes are closed, they look like they're wearing eyeshadow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they have like blue and pink, almost very similar to like a turkey's head, like that kind of colorway. And it's just on their eyelids. And I think that just one little detail that always stands out to me.
Yeah.
If they're eating a bunch of grain, the legs are going to be like bright red. I think that happens when they're taking in a lot of like sugar, especially off of corn. They say the same thing happens with mallards, like red-legged migrator mallards. So that transition from like the buff of the leg and like really soft feathers to the scaly red, like bright red foot, that can make a really cool detail to get a picture of. So that's my advice, is like detail shots. They're small. If you don't have a big pile, even if it looks cool in the moment because you just shot all those birds with your dog and you got your dog on the tailgate and blah, blah, it just,
doesn't translate.
No.
Yeah. That's a good point. It's like they're small birds, so like take small pictures basically, or close-ups to capture those small details. And you're never going to get, those birds are never going to look better than when they've just expired, right? So, and that's true for any bird, but I think it's especially critical, for doves that, just like I said, you stack them up on a tailgate, then, they just kind of wads of feathers, just kind of, the feathers just shed so easily, and it doesn't translate well, after the fact. So,
well, and that's the other thing. It goes back to 20. You'll get some better pictures because it doesn't beat them up as bad.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, birds that have been shot with 28s or 20s take way better pictures than those that have been shot with a 12.
Yep. Good point. What's a good dove recipe that's not a popper? I know, and maybe this is for another. No,
I've got some on Project Upland.
If
you go on Project Upland, search my name on the website, you'll find the recipes I put up. My favorite, there's a pate that I do.
Okay.
So you're like sauteing the best bunch of butter and green onions. You need breasts from like 10 to 15 birds, so you need a limit for this.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of saute until they're about medium, maybe a little bit past medium, in just a bunch of like almost submerged, more like poached in butter is probably a more accurate term. And enough green onions to turn the butter green. Then I go into a food processor and process it down. And once it's pretty well pureed, you start like streaming in heavy cream. The amounts in the recipe, I think it's like a quarter cup, a half a cup. It's not much, just kind of like give it some body. Then you put it in your, wherever you're going to serve it in, like a little ramekin, whatever, into the fridge for like 5 hours, let everything get set and get cold. And then it's like a spread on toast. And you can keep that. I put them in those little like to-go containers, like from like the Thai food takeout place to clear with the snap top. And man, you put it in your cooler, sit out there and take it with you hunting. You know what I mean? Just take that and like some club crackers, whatever. you're on point. Yeah, you're killing it.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to try that if I get enough
that's
birds
probably
to
my
do
favorite
it.
one. And that one, like, it gets a reaction out of people. Like people think it's cool because nobody does it. So yeah, that would be my tip. Like, bring that to a game. Bring that to your next, like, next time you got a party and you need use some of your game birds, you want to share it with people maybe that don't hunt, or like, you got some you're doing outside, taking snacks in the cooler, like that pate travels really well. And it's good, man. It's rich. Like, the birds, they migrate a lot. So those breasts have a ton of blood in them. They're kind of irony. So, it works well for that recipe.
Yeah. So it I'm sure that cream kind of smooths all that out too, right?
If you're going to do pops, I don't think I make these in the video. You can see me making them in that film. It's not on the website, but you want to braise your doves until you can shred the meat, like, from the bone and get it fully shredded, like very finely shredded. And then you fold that back into like cream cheese with hot sauce and pineapple chunks and whatever. Then you have a mixture with which you can stuff a whole jalapeno.
Yeah.
And yeah,
that's
then
cool.
you're really making, because like the poppers are good, but I'm over it. A little bit like the spinning wing decoy thing. It's going to make me sound like a jerk. But yeah, I'm over it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I interviewed a guy back, it would have been like in the wintertime, maybe early spring. And he's a wild game cook, and he'll actually, like, you can hire him out to come do like a cooking party, like at your house. And, but he's got a recipe online for dove sushi. So it's like the elements of poppers.
Okay.
But he also does like a fun twist, like apple and some other stuff too, and just makes 3 different kind of examples. But that's my next thing on the list to try, is to make some dove sushi. So he'll like marinate it in teriyaki sauce and do like the cream cheese and the bacon, but then make the sushi paper and the sushi rice, roll it up, cut it, and then drizzle it with some yum yum or some soy sauce or whatever. And have like sushi like that, and I think that sounds really interesting. So, because I definitely don't mind the red birds, be it dove, be it chickens, if that meat's not cooked through all the way. So it's, like,
no, I think it's good. I make tartare with wood ducks and woodcock.
Yeah,
pretty regularly.
Yeah. But
you got to freeze it first. That's the trick. Make sure if you're gonna eat it uncooked, any of your game birds, vacuum seal them and freeze them for a few days first.
Okay. What's the significance of that?
Any parasites will kill them off. That's what we used to do with tuna when we want to we'd catch tuna during the summers down on the beach. We want to eat sushi. Like, you can get ciguatera and some have worms, and so if you freeze it first, you kill all that.
Okay, so the tartare, it's like you're consuming it raw then, is what you're saying?
100%, yep.
Okay.
Freeze it, mix it up, mix it in with what's it got? Egg yolk, Dijon, shallot, some vinegar.
Cool.
Kind of play with it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same. It's like pre-pate, basically. It's not cooked and it's not pureed down. It's just cold and put into a mold, and then just like you serve it in a steakhouse with an egg yolk on top and some nice toasted bread. It's good.
That's cool. Well, Will, as we're kind of coming to a close here, I really appreciate your time today. I've got one more formal question for you before we hop into a fun little rapid fire. But if someone's listening, they've maybe never dove hunted before, what's your sales pitch, man? Why should they give it a try?
Let's see. Okay. It's the most sustainable hunting you could perform in North America. It's limits for a reason. These birds are plentiful. They're in all 50 states. All 50 states, as I understand it, don't allow them to be hunted, but they're in all 50 states. Well, maybe not. They 49. I don't know if we have any doves in Alaska, but there are doves in Hawaii. It's the most accessible. It's the most sustainable. You're not going to, one person going out and learn about it. You're not going to hurt this population. Like, go enjoy it. Have fun. It's forgiving.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then it's, as I mentioned earlier, it can grow with you as you desire to make it more complicated, really start playing the game. You can do that too. It fits all stages of this life cycle of a sportsman.
Yep. So anybody listening, this is your call to action. Just give it a try. If you're interested in it, Just get
Yeah.
out and go for it. So they
Get out there.
you know,
Get on your state DNR website. Find a public field.
Yep.
And
Great place
maybe
to
skip
start.
opening day. Wait till the next week, right? Go on them if you can. Go midweek.
Mhm.
Go when it's low pressure, when there's not a ton of people there, and just go observe. You
Mhm.
might not feel anything. You might watch birds fly back and forth across the other end of the field for an hour. But, you'll have some data you can take back with you next time.
For sure. All right, man. Well, let's hop into this rapid fire. No right or wrong answers here. Just shooting from the hip. First one. And these are usually kind of different, but I wanted to make sure to tailor this towards like a dove centric, for our conversation today. But first one, quickest limit by your estimations that you've ever had on doves,
7:45 a.m.
and you can start hunting what time?
30 minutes before sunrise. So around the opener, usually like 6:35, 6:40, somewhere in there. So right at an hour. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
We had a really good shoot that year.
Yeah. You already touched on this, but we'll hit it one more time. What gauge for dove?
I shoot the 20. 28s work okay, but you're limited. I think the 20 is the perfect gun for it.
Yeah. Okay. So if
some
you're
people
like,
bring 410s, but I'm like, man, you're just showing off. Like, what are we doing here?
yeah. Yeah. So if you're like, if I can only take one more gauge into the dove field for the rest of my life, it's a 20.
It's a 20. Yeah.
Okay. Best dove hunting snack besides the pate. Best dove hunting snack you got in your pack.
All right. I generally, so it's usually early season. I am bringing like pimento cheese spread, peanuts, but in the cooler, not fresh. You know what I mean? Like cold boiled peanuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely a southern thing. Yeah, definitely a southern
very much
thing.
so. And that's the thing is like the early season, if you're in the South, you don't need snacks in the field because somebody's got a meal plan. You'll be able to smell the pig cooking. And, whenever you get hungry, you just go reach food.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Love that. Love that culture kind of stuff. Okay. You've got one dove recipe that you're able to have for the rest of your life. What's it going to be?
All right. I'm trying to remember. Etouffee, a dove etouffee. I did this recipe for Project Upland. It's kind of like a braise. You're serving it on the bone. You want it starting to fall off, but the way I presented it, I kept the feet on the legs, and so I used dove legs for this. And you're basically just making it's a Cajun pan sauce. So like you've got etouffee and you've got gumbo. Really, the only difference is one roux, you stop when it's blonde. So you got your flour and your oil, and you stop when that one's blonde. For gumbo, you're going all the way to black. Pretty much like you want it like really brown. You want that flour like super toasted. So it's just a blonde roux, and you add in some, tomato, pepper, onion, celery, kind of make a gravy, serve back over the birds on some rice. Killer.
Cool.
Comes together in like 30 minutes. It sounds complicated. It's really not if you do your mise en place and you get your chopping up at a time. Happens pretty quick.
Yeah. Nice, man. Love it. All right. Last question for you, buddy. What keeps bringing you back to the dove field?
All right. There's a sound they make when they're leaving, and it's not really a vocalization. It's very similar like the noise a woodcock make when it gets up.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear their wings beating, and you can hear them like it kind of like whistles, and it fades out as they go away from you. And that's the sound really, because when you hear that, what happened is they got you.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow a bird got on top of you, saw you, and left.
Mm-hmm.
And all you ever knew about it was you heard it.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps me coming back. That like, dadgummit.
Yeah.
That would have made 15. Now I got to go home with 14.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that. Yeah.
Little
or
bit
just like a clean miss.
Yeah.
The second issue on that would just be the like classic clean miss. I had him dead to rights. He was fluttering at 25 yards, and I gave it every shell I had and watched that bird leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the fluttering wing sound.
It'll haunt your dreams, man.
It's a little bit of a haunting sound, right? So, well, dude, this has been a ton of fun today. Thank you so much for your time. Learned a lot, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom with the dove field. So appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man.
Very much. All right, hang here with me.
Yeah.